For me, it's a real pleasure to welcome all of you here in Frankfurt. It's personally a little bit like a coming home because my very first job was actually 200 meters away from here in Messeturm as a banker with Goldman Sachs. So I have some affinity to the sector, but I dare say there's something else that maybe all of us have in common, which is a deep passion for technology and for really driving that technology to create great products and do that in a very, very efficient way. And I've been asked, because I'm new to this company, I've joined SAP only 3 months ago, to tell you a couple of things that might be useful in the context of financial services about me, which you might not find easily on the internet. I've been, I think, 13 years now as a CFO of large industrial companies, more recently SAP, but I have actually a pretty long history in financial services. I mentioned already my 8 years with Goldman Sachs, but even afterwards, when I was working in industrial companies like Siemens, I was running as a CEO, Siemens Financial Services, and I think I got some idea about the complexities of the businesses you're in. It was amazing how difficult it is, for instance, to integrate different leasing platforms across countries, even within Europe. I've also been seeing the regulatory burden on the companies exploding. I've been sitting in some supervisory boards, for instance, of HDI, Sachservice Holding, or Asset Manager. There was a captive Kapitalanlagegesellschaft at Siemens. And actually, I launched a bank when I used to work at Siemens, and I actually was the chairman of a small bank while CFO of Airbus. So I think this industry is fascinating because it is highly complex, and the power of digital is probably the industry where the power of digital can really be leveraged in a massive way. And so I'm really excited about this opportunity to be here at SAP with our partner SAP Fioneer to talk about what we can do jointly to make your businesses run more efficiently, develop greater products, and really also optimize shareholder returns. I think in the end, I'm also a CFO, so I hope you apologize that I'm not only excited about technology. In the end, it's about bringing the business value, bringing that down to the bottom line. So I dare say I have a passion for the sector. I'm personally committed, and I'm a big believer in the potential. Now you might say, well, Dominic, that's all good, but how about SAP? The more important question is, how committed is the institution SAP to the sector? And I know there was some noise in the context of the creation of Fioneer around that, but I really want to put things straight here. The sector, financial services, is the second biggest industry vertical of the 25 industry verticals we have at SAP. It is a very challenging sector also for us because of the regional fragmentation. It requires more investment than probably any other sector we are dealing with. Think about an oil and gas sector, which is huge, but it's a quite kind of similar business throughout the world. Nothing compared to the complexity we are facing in financial services. Put yourself in the CFO shoes of SAP. Last year, we invested 6.1 billion, 6.2 billion, if you round it up, of R&D euros into the future. And we have to do so many things with that money. We have to get the foundational work right. We talk about data management, about BTP and so forth. We'll come to that. So that's a big heavy lifting. And I know there were some issues in terms of integrating the products. And back in October 2020, management decided we have to go full throttle into this cloud journey. We need to get this cleaned up now. And it was really an investment spree, which frankly for some time killed the share price. So that was the kind of overall situation. The discussion about how can we leverage Fioneer was created. And if you think about the 6.1 billion, you deduct everything we need for foundational work, everything we need for all the regional customization so that all the customers on the planet can really run a global business. It's clear that for these 25 industry verticals, there is not an infinite budget. But we need a lot of money to drive the roadmap in financial services. And that was where I think the idea with a strong partner who brought, I mean, some of you might know, but it's public, basically a commitment of 600 million incremental invest that can be leveraged on top of what SAP is doing on our own product portfolio, plus a long-term commitment. I mean, the shareholders of SAP Fioneer are not private equity companies that are flipping shares after 3-5 years. They are long-term investors really interested in the business and to build the business. So we felt that's an ideal platform. I know it has created some complexities, but I'm convinced that in this technology game, which I learned in my times is a winner-takes-it-all game, where you always want to have enough budget. I mean, I always say I would like to have the largest development R&D budget on the planet to really be sure that our products are better than the products of the competition. If you want to live up to that aspiration, that you really have the money to develop that roadmap, we needed to take that step and leverage it. And it does not mean at all that there is a lack of a commitment. And we do that jointly with SAP Fioneer. And we, of course, will work very hard to bring that service seamlessly to you. Now, I already alluded to some of the special challenges you're facing. It's not getting easier with geopolitical tensions. I think these geopolitical tensions result in some more protectionism, which in particular in financial services is creating new barriers. And then we have all the questions about where the data can be stored and localization requirements. The reporting standards are just amazing. I must confess that before joining SAP, I was always amazed, to put it diplomatically, how much regulation is imposed to us. But I think financial services is beyond anything that other industries are experiencing, and the creativity of regulators to ask for new information in a certain format is just humongous. So we fully appreciate that this is not easy. And then, of course, the financial services sector, post-2008 Lehman crisis, is under special scrutiny. And rightly so, as we see with some banks failing very recently. So it's not only on a kind of company enterprise dimension, it's also a social dimension. So it's a hugely complex environment. And then you have these big challenges. You have the power of technology you can leverage to solve these challenges. And then you have the legacy. And when I talk about legacy, I must say I've seen it on a small scale with the kind of small firms I've worked for in financial services, like Siemens Financial Services. But I have a feeling what legacy means also for my industrial background. If you work at a company like Airbus and you have sites all over the place which have been built 50 years ago, so I think I can very much relate to the complexity of silos within the company, of lack of integration. And that's a big impediment for really driving that power of IT to the benefit of the customer and to the benefit of the shareholders by bringing the business value down to the bottom line. And I mentioned the foundational investments we had to do, and I think one of the biggest initiatives in that context is the BTP, the Business Technology Platform. Probably I'm preaching to the converted, but we think that with this approach, we can really bring our customers onto that journey from that legacy footprint into a cloud environment. And of course, what we try to do is enable, over time, a so-called clean core, bringing basically the ERP system at its core to a standard that can then be moved to the cloud. Ultimately, I want to say to the public cloud, we are fully aware, and especially in financial services, there might need to be intermediate steps. I can tell you the companies I used to work for, they will not go to public cloud next day. But the ones who have easier business models and who know a lot about the sector, like professional services firms, are already on the public cloud. So that's the long-term game. And what we try to achieve together with you is to kind of get to that clean core, but enable a seamless integration of all the extensions you need to fulfill the requirements which are specific to your businesses by virtue of leveraging that. Now, there is this industry-specific layer, which is, of course, something that SAP Fioneer is delivering in the financial services vertical. And then we have this suite of tools around it where we believe that with new technology, artificial intelligence, the usefulness of linking all this will increase. I mean, I always, as a CFO, give one super easy example. It's nice to have an HR system and to have a forecasting system on the other side. If they're not integrating, you're missing something, because when things are running good, you have done a budget, you have actual cost in the first half of the year, and then those businesses who do a great job might underspend in the first half. And then there's a big temptation of everyone to say, well, we need all the money in the second half. Now, if you link the HR data with the forecasting data, you can very easily demystify what's really happening. You just look, what's the pipeline of hiring, who has an offer out, and how many people are actually leaving, and how many people are we going to hire in the remaining to-do of the year. And then you have a very fast quality check and can really say, well, is that now a sandbag budget? There's so many other use cases where it becomes apparent. I mean, think about customer relationship management, supply chain. So if a customer wants to have a product, you need to understand what's available in the supply chain. And we think that this ability to integrate these different lines of business, as we call them, is of high value in the future world. And with the exponential power of the technology, kind of reaping the benefit of these data points is becoming more tangible and feasible. I also want to highlight that we have clearly understood that we cannot do everything ourselves. It's such a big Herculean task to manage that transformation for the entire ecosystem that we have to leverage a strong ecosystem. And that ecosystem also has to interface with us in a very seamless way. And this is also something that the BTP does. And last but not least, if you talk about foundational investment, we talk about artificial intelligence, large language models. You might have seen a press release from our venture capital arm, Sapphire Ventures. They have now earmarked 1 billion of commitments in startups on that front. You should also watch the space on SAP itself. I don't see ourselves really being heavyweight on developing the technology ourselves, but where I think we have to invest all our money is to create data management for our customers and to have the contextual awareness in co-innovation projects with our customers to leverage that power and bring it to bear. I'll give you another example from very industrial background, or it's also in financial services. You all have suppliers. And the supplier sends you an invoice, and you have to see whether the goods have been received. You do a goods receipt process, and then you have to pay the supplier. It's called three-way matching by most companies. That's the type of stuff that I can tell you artificial intelligence can do very properly. But now the question is, what's the cheapest AI tool I can use to solve that use case? These are all the kinds of problems where we have the benefit of SAP to see what is a use case with the customer, what technology is there on the AI side, and how can we bring the two together to provide the cheapest and most efficient solution to the customer, because you might not need a super duper expensive AI tool to solve that problem. It's a huge investment for us. And last but not least, we don't have it on the slide, it's the sustainability topic. I want to mention it explicitly, and I see a colleague here who's in charge of that. It's a fascinating topic because it's real money. The biggest CO2 emitters in Europe emit 700 million tons of CO2 per year. On the European ETS, European Trading Scheme, CO2 price is about 100 euros. I can tell you corporates are starting to use much higher prices in their internal planning. If you think about the cost incurred on abating a ton of CO2 in a car, we talk about 500 euros. Hydrogen aircraft, I don't even want to talk about how much money it will cost you. If you think about how much money we talk about, there will be fraud. And I think all of you are aware that this whole kind of greenwashing risk is there. So really tightening the screws, coming to a high level of assurance on that emission topic is a huge agenda. And I think SAP is uniquely positioned because we have the depth into the supply chain. We have the accounting systems that can really come to what we call a green ledger. So I think we can dare say we have a lot of money to invest in the sector. We have a lot of good technology that's relevant, hopefully, to all of you. And this gives me the confidence, and this makes me so excited about the opportunity we face in that sector. There's a last point I want to make, which is we see that clearly not only do we need the partners from the ecosystem, but all of you will need data from some very different sources. In industrial context, it might be data feeds from IoT sources. On the banking side, there's tons of other data sources you have. For instance, risk management tools that need to be integrated with other systems. And stuff as simple as Google search on certain publicly available information. And we have recently launched this initiative called DataSphere, where we try to really integrate also that completely outside data so that you can really work seamlessly. And in that context, we are not going to replicate all the SAP data, but we just link the SAP data to that engine and to that platform so you can make it useful. So I hope some of the excitement I have for the sector, for our products, I could share with you in this short introduction. But I now want to hand it over to Dirk and talk about what specifically Fioneer can do to help you evolve on your journeys. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominik. And also from my side, good morning and a very warm welcome to the third SAP and SAP Fioneer Financial Services Forum. I'm actually very pleased to see that with the start we had last year in Amsterdam, this event, this joint SAP and Fioneer Forum is becoming an institution again, a meeting point of the industry when it comes to technology and innovation. And I'm really pleased to see that. It's by far the largest event we had so far. We had a very successful launch this year in Boston for the North American customers. But I'm really, really proud that we today kick off the event here in Frankfurt for the EMEA region. And also a special thank you. We have a couple of customers who came a really long way from Australia, Korea, Latin America, Taiwan. So thanks for joining us here in Frankfurt. Dominik was talking about the partnership and the strong foundation and collaboration of SAP and Fioneer. And what I would like to talk about today is how we deliver innovation and how we deliver that together. And together has various aspects. On the one hand side, we quite often, when we're talking about Fioneer introducing our portfolio, we're saying we have rock-solid technology together with bold creativity. And the rock-solid technology, those are all the elements Dominik also mentioned. That's our foundation. That's the SAP foundation. And that's the foundation of Fioneer. We have a strategic commitment. Everything we do is based on SAP technology, whether it's the business technology platform Dominik talked about or the S/4HANA platform. That's our foundation. And if I'm looking into a lot of faces and customer situations, I know, especially when it comes to running core banking processes or core insurance processes, we know that stability, robustness, scalability is a key asset if we're running key processes in the financial services industry. So that's one aspect of together, that's the partnership together with SAP. But there are other aspects which I would like to share with you today. And that's basically how we as SAP Fioneer deliver innovation, how we are extending our portfolio together with you, the clients, in a co-innovation mode. But I'm also sharing an example with you how we co-innovate with partners. And we will see that later on. I'm a strong believer that we as a technology company, also together with SAP, we can come up with technology innovation, but if it really comes down to business innovation, when it comes down to speed, agility, bringing new business models to life, it's about collaboration, and that's what I would like to cover today. Some of you have been in Amsterdam a year back, and in Amsterdam we basically explained the partnership, the carve-out, the decision SAP and Fioneer made. And we also launched the platform strategy of SAP Fioneer. And as I already mentioned, it's founded and grounded on SAP technology, S/4HANA and BTP. But for our co-innovation process, it's important to understand how we actually develop the increments, how we build new additions, how we launch new products to the market. And looking at the portfolio, we basically have three portfolio elements. We have a banking platform, an insurance platform, and then there is a joint finance and ESG platform serving both the banking but also the insurance industry. When we are delivering innovation, this can be developing a new app, but we are also, because we are committed to deliver end-to-end processes to the industry, we are also developing templates, content, connectors, in order to make sure that we cover a process end to end, that we have a specific solution for a certain market. And I'm very proud that I can, during my presentation, also make a couple of product announcements today. But it's important for all of you to keep in mind that the innovation we're shipping also to make sure that we both serve the existing clients, but also new customers. It's important to understand that we're not delivering only apps, but that we're also building content connectors, templates for specific business needs. Looking at the portfolio, and also looking back to statements we made almost 2 years ago when we launched SAP Fioneer, we promised to be more innovative, to be more agile, to be faster, and to extend the portfolio. And we have come a long way since then. And as you can see from the portfolio, and I will guide you through the slide, we are investing basically in all the areas of the portfolio. So let me start with the insurance market. Like the banking market, we see that there is a lot of disruption going on. You probably all know the statement, banking is needed, banks are not, and that actually also applies to the insurance market. So what does that mean? What we can see is basically blurring industry lines. We quite often call it industry fluidity, or you could call it embedded. What we see, and we also have later on in our panel discussion, very good examples, and I hope we're getting some more interesting insights from Tune, but also Ergo on this. We can call it embedded finance or embedded insurance. That's what we see, and it requires a lot of change in the existing applications. It requires an open core, so the core application need to be much more open, agile. API management is super important in order to make sure that your core processes can be easily integrated into new business models, processes whatsoever. But it also requires new layers in the architecture. So our embedded insurance solution and the engagement hub, the underlying orchestration layer, that's one of the product innovations we are currently building, because it's key for insurance companies to also be able to deliver in new business models, whether it's travel business, selling a travel insurance, whether it's selling traditional auto insurances in mobility scenarios. So architectural components like the engagement hub, and you can see and find more details in the joint presentation with AXA during this conference. That's one of the key innovations we're currently driving. Also the P&C business, based on the big success we have on the cloud for banking solution, we also started an initiative called Cloud for Insurance, because we also want to have a SaaS-like offering for small insurance companies, insurtechs, but also large traditional insurance companies when it's all about launching new products or entering new markets. So there's a lot of things going on also in collections, disbursements, payments on the insurance side. Looking into the banking industry, same applies. So to open the core is actually one of the key initiatives we already started last year. But today I have also the pleasure to announce 2 new products on the banking side, so stay with me for a second, and I will share more details with you. And then last but not least, the whole topic of finance and ESG. It's the largest also joint sales play with SAP. The finance topic is all over the world. The last couple of years it has been driven by IFRS 9 on the banking side, but more recently IFRS 17 initiatives all over the world, US GAAP, LDTI on the insurance side. So there's a lot of dynamics. And 3 months ago in Boston, we launched a new product, also a great example for co-innovation. It's called Financial Control. So basically, with one of our big co-innovation partners, Standard Chartered, we actually started a joint development solving the issue of the reconciliation process. So this is, in most of the organizations today, still a highly manual process. So starting on the reconciliation side, doing adjustments, and then all the way down to substantiation. And we have seen that in most of the customer situation, there is no solution, and there's a lot of add-on development. And these are exactly the points where SAP Fioneer steps in. Those are the areas where we are very keen to develop standard applications, standard solutions, in order to make sure that you can standardize on the technology side, build down, reduce customer-specific developments, reduce TCO, and standardize your business much more. Also on the FPSL, so our product subledger side, a lot of innovation has been delivered just recently. In the recent release, the 2306 release, we delivered additional banking functionality, but also a lot of requirements for US GAAP and LDTI. And new topics like carbon accounting are now coming. So that's now in the backlog, in the scope for the upcoming release. So there's a lot of things going on the finance side. And then last but not least, also the topic of ESG, so a joint offering with SAP. Also from the Fioneer side, we have a KPI engine, which we are currently co-developing with partners focusing on PCAF, carbon emissions, etc. So that's also going on the finance side. So to cut a long story short, we came a long way. We started innovating, extending the platform basically in all the areas. And I'm super happy to share some more details with you right now. So I touched already on the topic of open core several times when talking about core banking and core insurance. And that is one of our key development initiatives. So we're putting a lot of R&D in opening our core. So I think looking forward, and that's also what we see in all the markets, in all the transformation projects, in all the new implementation projects, core banking, core insurance can't be a monolith, can't be a big bang approach. What you have to do is you have to open the application, you have to open the technology stack to make sure it integrates with all the various business models, whether it's retail banking, commercial lending, whether it's leasing business. So the architecture has to be open, also to make sure that you're flexible and agile enough to comply with the changes in the market. It's also key for us in our development or strategic direction to cover end-to-end processes, because the open core is basically the foundation, the baseline, which we use and need in order to then add templates, content, UIs to cover end-to-end processes. It's also an absolute key requirement when it comes to the joint collaboration and the technical integration into ecosystems, and I think we touched already on a couple of examples here. It's also key when it comes to cloud enablement, and we on the SAP Fioneer side, we are following SAP's cloud strategy, so whatever is being developed cloud native, the foundation will be the business technology platform, but also when it comes to traditional scenarios based on S/4HANA, we from the Fioneer side, we are supporting the RISE scenarios, so they are bring your own license models from the Fioneer side, exactly tying and building on top of the SAP RISE proposition. What are we doing on the open core side? It's a lot about API management. It's a lot about building the necessary RESTful APIs. The event streaming platform is especially a topic which is relevant to a lot of our core banking clients, and we're investing heavily in this topic. But it's also important for future upgrades, so we have to make sure that also looking forward, upgrades, innovations, new releases can be shipped much, much easier, hassle-free, and the elastic core is a prerequisite for this. So talking about co-innovation is important from a business perspective, is important from a technology perspective, but we from the Fioneer side, we also invested a lot in how we're doing innovation, basically in the methodology. And I just want to make sure, that we're also landing this message with you. So we invested also in a lot of design people. Our largest design center is currently located in Berlin. And all the co-innovations we are doing with you as a customer or partners, and some of you have experienced that already, they are supported by our design center and our design methodology. So it's important that the ideation is being super closely done with our customers, with the business partners. We need to understand exactly what the pain points are, what the customer and user journeys are, in order to then come up with a proposition how the journey design could look like, how the functional iterations, how the corresponding UIs should be designed. So we're supporting all this. And the SME banking solution, which I'm happy to announce today, is actually one of the examples where we have adopted and applied exactly this methodology. So today we are announcing from the Fioneer side 2 new solutions in the banking portfolio. We are launching our digital SME banking edition, so a designed end-to-end solution for small and medium clients of the bank. And at the same time, more a proposition for traditional commercial banking. We are launching the solution which is called virtual account management. So let's take a look in both of those solutions, starting with the SME banking solution. The SME market, and I'm talking to a lot of clients in all the geographies, whether it's Asia, the European markets, or the Americas. SME banking is one of the largest growing markets for the banks. There are statistics and surveys that this is a 800 billion annual revenue market for the banks globally. And in order to serve the SMEs, it's absolutely key that you apply modern technologies, that you come up with digital processes in order to serve those clients. It has to be an end-to-end proposition, whether it's smart lending. We are currently developing an AI application as part of the SME banking solution in order to do cash flow forecasting and projections. But it's a huge market, and we decided 6 months ago to heavily invest. We have spoken to experts in the industry, charter clients, partners, and within 6 months, half a year, we have been basically able to come up with a solution end-to-end, including UIs, dashboards, in order to serve the market. It's built in a modular way because we also want to make sure that all our existing core banking clients can use the templates, the contents, the UIs, the processes we have built, but it can also be consumed in an end-to-end way, and we also offer the SME banking solution in a cloud version. So especially when it comes to opening new markets, it's part and can be used based on our C4 banking solution. The virtual account management on the other side is a proposition for commercial banking. So it basically addresses and targets the head of treasury and cash managers in corporate clients. And it basically describes the functionality or the opportunity to build the entire corporate organization from a cash and an accounting point of view in a virtual hierarchy. So this is important for cash management, for cash consolidation. That gives a lot of transparency and insight for the treasurers in the corporates. But it's also a key differentiator for banks offer to those corporate clients. And the challenge we had, and some of you might know, we developed a solution with 2 leading European banks the last 2 or 3 years, but as a customer-specific solution. But because of the increasing demand, we had to decide whether this solution is becoming a standard solution. On the other side, we had a lot of prospects approaching us saying, well, great functionality, but we have to make sure that we can also use it core banking agnostic. Not all the clients are using banking services or TRBK. Some of them are using still mainframe systems. So we not only had to standardize the application, we also had to rebuild it in a way that we can use it core banking agnostic. And both solutions have been launched just recently, June this year, and both solutions are great add-ons to our banking portfolio. As I said, the virtual account management solution is also built in a modular way. It's core banking agnostic, and the key differentiator is basically that it's a key asset these days in winning new corporate clients. It's also great from an efficiency point of view because we basically built self-service UIs on top of the solution, so the corporate clients, the treasurer, the cash management people can actually maintain the hierarchies and the solution themselves. So 2 new offerings on the banking side we launched just recently. Moving on to the finance business, and I mentioned already a couple of topics in the introduction, looking on the architecture. I'm also happy to announce and launch 3 new products and development initiatives today. First and foremost, we shipped the first beta release of the FSDM 2023 to our development partner, Accenture Digital, and later this year we will have the general available version of the solution. But we're also introducing today 2 new products in the context of data management. One is called the Finance Open Integration Framework, a single point of integration, inbound as well as outbound. And then last but not least, what we call the financial consumption layer. That is a layer, a meta layer, where you can basically synchronize all the reporting you need to do on the S/4HANA stack. And both solutions, actually all solutions, but also the open integration framework and the consumption layer, we have already won co-development partners, so we are currently building together with clients these 2 components. So let's dive a little bit deeper into it. The FSDM solution, and some of you might know, has been already launched a couple of years ago. It's the central data model combining or linking the operative core banking world with the finance, accounting, regulatory world. It's all about having consolidated, reconciled data. The change we need was actually a platform change, so we decided to move the application to the S/4HANA stack because it makes much more sense for all of you, the clients, to use the data model exactly on the same technology stack. You're using not only the general ledger, but also the financial product sub-ledger or the financial control. We are also working on a cloud offering for the FSDM 2023, and we also made sure that was a little bit cumbersome in the past, that we're investing in the usability, in APIs, but also the user experience when it comes to maintaining the data model. The FSDM 2023 is also part of our ESG solution, so it's pre-integrated and will also be part of the shipment. So the FSDM 2023 is the data model for the ESG solution. And as I mentioned, there's also a detailed session, I think it's on the agenda for tomorrow afternoon, with our development partner Accenture and Digital. So if you're interested in the financial services data model, you will get more insights in tomorrow's session. So that's the launch of FSDM 2023. The general available release will be shipped in November. Looking into the other 2 components, starting with the open integration framework. So the integration piece, especially of FSDM, has been a topic for a lot of clients in the past. And we, from the Fioneer side, we are always looking for those, let's say, effort drivers in the individual customer situation. And if we see patterns, we are very keen, basically, to get a couple of customers together and say, here is a place for another standard integration tool in this case. And that's also the reason why we started with a German client to build the open integration framework. So it's basically an inbound, but also outbound integration capability. Inbound, obviously, whether it's other SAP components, but also especially non-SAP components. The outbound capabilities are extremely important in order to make sure that you get finance and risk together, or that you make your finance information available, let's say, for regulatory reporting. So you can also expect in the future that part of the open integration framework, we will also deliver standard adapters to third-party solutions, especially when it comes to risk and regulatory reporting. And then looking into the financial consumption layer, as I said, it's all about unifying, having unified access to all the information in the S/4HANA stack. It's a meta layer on top of the S4 stack. basically connecting, consolidating the information, making it available to the reporting, whether it's GL data, whether it's detailed subledger information, and then you can basically consume it from this layer. So those have been the new product announcements from the Fioneer side. So if I sum it up, we came a long way. We started 2 years ago. As you have seen on the overall architecture overview, we are investing in all the 3 portfolio elements, the core banking, the core insurance, but especially also the finance world. We made big promises last year in order to innovate. I mentioned already in Boston when I did the keynote, this year for us on the Fioneer side is really the year about delivery. We launched financial control earlier in March this year. I'm happy and I'm proud that we have additional offerings on the core banking and the finance side here in Frankfurt. And it comes back to my introduction. I think collaboration is absolutely key. We are technology experts. We are experts in the industry. But I think you can only come up with world-class solutions in banking and in insurance if we take all our expertise together, your specific expertise about your business model, the pain points from a customer's perspective, the expertise from all our partners also here in this audience today. And I think collaboration is the innovation catalyst.